Sentiment analysis? No, क्या है? स्टार्ट करेंगे? ओके ओके हेलो अभी मैं अंग्रेज़ी में बोलूँगा क्योंकि मेरा हिंदी अच्छा नहीं है. ठीक है? ठीक है? गोरा जैसे मेरा हिंदी है. Okay, so this talk is on sentiment analysis. So I'd like you to raise your hand if you have heard of this topic before, sentiment analysis. Okay, wow. Okay, we got a pretty technical audience here. That's good. One more question to gauge how technical this audience is. Raise your hand if you have coded a sentiment analysis, any kind of sentiment analysis app before. Okay, about half the people here. This is good. All right. So in this talk, I'm going to talk about sentiment analysis, how it works, and then I'm going to do a bit of improvisation in that I'm going to have a discussion with you guys about how to learn fast, learning techniques. I think that applies to everybody. A lot of things I have not said on my YouTube channel yet, so these are new things, okay? And so that's how this is going to go. First, sentiment analysis. I did have a part where I would code it from scratch, but that's dependent on it being connected to my laptop, but it's okay. We can work with it, okay? So let's start with the first question, okay? So the first question is, why are you here? So what I mean is, why is data science important to you? AI, data science, what's one reason that you are interested in or excited in this technology? I'm curious. So raise your hand if you have a reason, like why is data science exciting to you? Okay, yes?
It's a very pervasive field.
Yes, it's very pervasive.
It's getting into all the other fields.
Yes, yes, that's a great point. One more. Okay, one more. Go ahead. Better business decisions. Exactly. Okay, one more.
Supernatural power from which you can solve real-world problems.
Yes, exactly. It's a combination of... Okay, one more, and then that's it. Yes, please.
Automation.
Automation, yes. It is all of the above. It's automation, it's all of that. But to me, I agree with all of this. To me, the one metric that I looked at that makes it the most exciting to me is this metric. It's unbelievable, it's unfathomable that the vast majority of the information we have today was only created in the past 2 years. And this is updated every 2 years. Every 2 years, we create more information. Think about all the libraries in the world, all the books in the world. We create more information than we've ever had every 2 years. So every second of every day, hundreds of thousands of gigabytes of data are uploaded to the internet in the form of video, in the form of text, images. We're sharing things, and everything is connected by the internet. In 2019, this year alone, 8 million people will come online. 8 million people. And that's a huge thing for the internet. Right now, there's a culture. There's an internet culture, right? People talk a certain way. They share memes, certain kinds of memes on the internet. All of that is going to change this year alone as 8 million more people come online from different cultures, speaking different languages. It's going to change the internet. It's going to change the world. So this is a very important metric. It's literally like we are so lucky to be alive here in 2019 to be conscious in this reality when this is happening. I mean, humanity has been around for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years, but nothing like this has ever happened before. Only in the past 15, 20 years have we had this much information. It's truly an explosion. So in order to utilize all of this data, we can use techniques, different algorithms to find insights. And the companies, the startups, the individuals, the developers that are competitive in this world are going to be the ones that know how to look inside of this data and find answers. those are going to be the people who make the best business decisions, who utilize automation, and who are able to understand this very pervasive technology. Okay, so sentiment analysis. Generally, it's very binary. Is this a good piece of text? Is it a bad piece of text, or is it neutral? And that, how does someone feel about this? So if I say, I really hate my job, that would be negative, because the word hate is a negative word. But how do we know that? Because we've learned this over time, right? We've learned this. But if I say I really love my job, that's positive, right? And then if I say my job is okay, that's neutral. So that's positive, negative, and neutral. So that's the basic idea behind sentiment analysis. We'll look at some text and we can say, oh, okay, this is good, bad, or neutral. But how do we get a machine to understand that? How do we automate that process? Why would we even want to? Let me ask this question to you. Why would we want to automate this process that we all do intuitively? It's a one word or one sentence answer. Raise your hand if you have an idea. Yes?
So we can do it for 10% or 20%, but when there is a million people who are reviewing your site or who are reviewing your product, then you cannot do it by yourself.
Exactly. It's scalable. Exactly. Scalable to millions of people. If we are trying to do some kind of market research, we have a product, we have a service, and we want to understand how people feel about our competitors, this is what we will do. Because we can go to Twitter, we can type in, let's say we want to create a biometric device, for tracking your heartbeat. What's one competitor there? The Apple Watch, right? That's one with as many. So we can type in Twitter Apple Watch. We can see how people feel about it. But what would be better is if we can do this for millions of people all at once and instantly know how they feel about it. One person that does this very well is the president of China, Xi Jinping. He's performing sentiment analysis every day on probably more people than anybody in the world right now as to how they feel about certain policies and stuff. So this has already been applied at scale beyond Facebook, Google, and all of these other companies. Too far. Hold on. I got this. Or the previous. Previous again. Forward one. Perfect. Okay. So there are two ways to do sentiment analysis, and I think this one doesn't. This is the easiest one. It's also not that bad. It's not a terrible approach, but the idea is that we have some text, right? It could be a huge essay. It could be millions of essays, and we will give this essay to an algorithm, some technique. It could be one of several. There's a bunch of different names for them, and what it's going to do is it's going to look in a database, a dictionary. And inside this dictionary, it has almost every word in existence. Every word in existence. And this dictionary has been hand-labeled by some researchers as to whether or not each word is positive, negative, or neutral. So it'll have +1, -1, or 0. Okay? And so we call this a lexicon. A dictionary in the context of sentiment analysis is called lexicon. So this phrase right here, I had nightmares all night long last night. Okay? What it's going to do is it's going to search for every single word in this sentence. It's going to say I, and then it'll find I, it's 0, it's neutral. Had, 0, nightmares, -1. Okay, so now we're summing up the total sentiment value of the sentence as an equation. It's just addition, simple arithmetic. So, okay, so far it's -1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So the rest is 0. So then the total sentiment of this sentence is -1. So we can then say that this is a negative sentence, right? That's the sentiment of the sentence. And that's very simple. There's no machine learning involved there. It's rule-based. It's rule-based, and this actually has a use case. Okay, we could go to the next one. All right, great. So that's the lexicon-based or or rule-based approach right here. We're matching words to rules, -1, +1, or 0. And then once we have those, we can output the total sentiment value of the text corpus. But this is the newer approach. This is the one I'm more excited about, the machine learning approach. And so the way this works is, again, we have a lexicon. We can have a lexicon. We can make our own lexicon if we want. And usually humans will label this lexicon and say, okay, this review is, for this movie or this product or this service or this anything, status update is +1, -1, or 0. And so it's, again, an Excel spreadsheet of +1, -1, 0. But the difference is, instead of looking it up in the dictionary, we'll use an algorithm to learn what the mapping is there between the +1, -1, and 0. And so what it's going to do is it's going to look at hundreds of thousands of samples of this text, and then when we give it a new text, it's going to use what it's learned to try to predict if that text is positive or negative. It's not going to look for every word to see if it's +1 or -1. It's just going to know a little. It's like intuition. But when I say intuition for humans, it's what does that mean in the context of neuroscience? It's very complicated in the context of a human, but in the context of a machine, intuition just means one big, it's called a matrix, a group of numbers of zeros and ones. It's just millions of zeros and ones. And during the training process, these ones and zeros are changing. And so that changing process is the learning process, right? Ones and zeros and ones. And so then, once we have the completed training process with that matrix, when we give it a new sentence, it's learned all the patterns of what good and bad is. And those patterns are represented as ones and zeros. So when we give it a novel sentence, it'll just automatically, immediately, within a few milliseconds, know if it's positive or negative. And that's the basic idea behind rule-based approaches. Okay, so we can go to the next one. But I think the next one is. So the next step is for me to code it out. But since it's not connected to my computer right now, what we can do instead is we can talk about learning techniques, fast learning techniques. Okay, so we can change it back to the first slide. But okay, so. Right, so I'm going to stand here. Does anybody have any learning techniques that they use that they think are kind of, like not many people know about? Some suggestion of a way that you learn that helps you learn in a very efficient way? Because again, there's so much data, right? There's so many blog posts and articles about all this stuff. And we want to know how to learn from all of this freely available knowledge, right? It's freely available on the internet. If you have a technique, raise your hand and let's see what we have. Yes?
If I would like to learn a new technology, I usually see the subreddit explain like I'm fine.
Yes, that's a great one. Yes, ELI5 on Reddit. I do that too. So and I remember, yeah. So you'll just Google ELI5 and then the topic that you want to learn about. Let's say sentiment analysis, and the first or second link is going to be a one-paragraph, really good explanation of what that concept is, no matter how difficult. And so I've used that technique as well. It's a great technique. So that's a great one. So one that I was just in Paris 2 days ago to speak at an event as well, and I just kind of came out this technique that I haven't talked about, and I didn't even think it was a real technique. I thought it was kind of, I didn't even know if it was worth it, but I'm going to say it right now. So one technique that I use to learn faster is that I dance. So at night and during the day, so I work at home, right? So I have my computer, I have my desk set up at home, and I'm reading through these blog posts, and I'm watching videos, and so I'll take a break every 2, 3, 4 hours, and I'll just start moving. And I'll be playing music, and I'll just try to forget what I was just learning. I'll try to reset my brain. And I've been actually doing this for years. I just never thought of saying that. I didn't think it was a technique, but now I think I realize it is a technique actually. So that definitely helps. It gets the blood flowing in the brain because you're sitting at your computer all day. You're not moving. But your brain is a biological machine. There's blood flowing through there. And this is why they say cardio is good for mental health as well. But we should think of cardio as not like a one-time thing we do during the day, but as a part of our learning process, as we're working on our laptops, as we're learning these things. You really want to be efficient with how you're learning. So that's one thing I do. And then at night, I'll do it for maybe like 3 hours, just alone. I'll just be, and it's also an ideation process as well. Like, it's not necessarily like I'm going crazy. Like sometimes I will. I'm not moving like a lot. Sometimes I'll just be kind of like this. I'll be just walking around my place like this. I'll be listening to music, and then I'll just like come up with an idea regarding some machine learning technique or different insight into how things could be. So that's something I thought I would share with you. Another technique another thing that I've been doing very recently is I've been reading a lot of books. So I don't usually read. I mean, I used to read, many years ago in school when we were forced to read. But I don't usually read a lot of books. I mean, I read blog posts and I read these, things on the internet, but they're not books. I feel like I don't have time to read these days. But what I've done is I've started listening to audiobooks. Okay? And I've been not just listening to audiobooks, but listening to them at 3x speed. This might seem kind of wild, but you have to train your brain to do that slowly, very slowly. So I'll start listening at 1x, normal speed, and then I'll increase it by 0.25, just very slightly. And then your brain will, the patterns in your brain will learn how to adapt to that speed level over time. For some people it might take a few days. For some people it might take a few weeks, 2 weeks maybe. I think that's a good amount, 2 weeks, or 1 week even. And then every week or so, just increase it a little bit. When you feel comfortable, when it doesn't seem difficult anymore. It will seem difficult at first. It's always going to be difficult at first, right? But eventually it's going to seem normal. And then you can increase it by 0.25, 0.25. And look, it doesn't have to be 3x speed. That's the max, right? I can't go faster than that. And I'm a native English speaker. So that's very difficult. I think even 2x is wonderful because even with 2x, you are literally doubling the amount you're learning in half the time. Incredibly useful technique. 2x speed listening to these audiobooks. So that's an important one. Yes?
I wanted to ask you, how do you recall all those things which you have heard in 2x? Do you make some notes or something like that to recall all those concepts which you have learned?
That's a great idea. I do that sometimes. But for these past, so I just read 10 books in a row in 2 weeks by listening at 3x speed. And for that, what I did is I just sat there. And I was on my sofa, and I wasn't doing anything. Like literally, maybe I'll like walk around while I'm listening, but I'm trying to just 100% focus on this. I'm not driving, I'm not walking. I found that I can run, or I can do some cardio, bike riding maybe. Then I can do that, but not like anything like watching TV while reading. That's never going to work. But I will pause sometimes. Maybe sometimes I'll pause and I'll just try to maybe recite what just happened, like kind of summarize a bit, and then I'll keep going again. But I found this to be very, very useful. Like, there's something about books. Like, I know, in this age of internet, blog posts, all this is amazing videos, it's amazing material. But there's something about books in that it's a story. Books are stories, right? Even nonfiction books, machine learning books, they're still this story structure, and our mind is very well suited to retain all of this knowledge in story form. We're meant to be listening to stories as humans. So there's something about books where you'll put a bunch of facts in a story format that helps your brain retain all of that information in a way that you wouldn't in another medium. So I do think that there is a lot of benefit to listening to audiobooks faster than usual. So I just released a video on this recently, but I didn't talk about it in this much detail. Specifically this speed reading technique. But I do have a list of books I would...
When we read
Yes.
a book, like there is a lot of material in it, but there is only limited thing, like that's a diamond in there. So you have to mine so much that you get the diamond out of that book. What that book is all about. Like there will be some little things that you need to mine through, and then you can find what that book is going to tell you. Like you have to find the diamond in that book.
Yeah. Yeah, usually there is one thing that sticks out above everything else, like the most important fact about that book, or for the book The Master Algorithm, that I would highly recommend. If I just think about that book, there's only one thing that comes up to my mind, and that's the author divides people who are into AI and machine learning and data science into 5 categories, 5 different ways of thinking. The connectionists, they think about things in terms of connections, all the like neural networks, these are connections in the brain. And then there's the Bayesians. They think about things in terms of probability and statistics. And then the author in the end, he's like, well, the way to solve this AI is to combine them all together. So yes, there's usually one overarching theme or idea that we need to look at. Let me ask a question, an open-ended question. There's, like somebody was saying, there's so many different fields to apply data science and AI to. What is one field that you personally are excited about to apply this technology to? Yes? HR. HR. Nice. What's like one thing in HR you think could be done better?
Employee engagement, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting feedback on various things like the performance management. I'm listening to you, I was thinking about it.
Yeah, that's a great point, HR. Because yes, companies are always trying to figure out how their employees are feeling about certain policies and things. This would be a great way to make that much faster and scalable, especially as the company grows in size. What's another one?
Robotics.
Robotics, yes, that's a huge one. What would be one example in robotics specifically?
So I saw your video about Atlas, and
Oh, yes.
they are not using reinforcement right now.
Right, it's crazy.
Why?
Why? Yes, why? They will start now this year, but that does make you realize that this stuff, as cool as it is, deep reinforcement learning, for these people who are actually spending millions on these robotic systems, they think it's not as efficient. So even these people who are studying this stuff for years don't believe or want to try these techniques. They're too new even for them. So that's a great area of robotics. Let's do one more. One field that, let me call on somebody who I haven't, yeah.
I think it will be medical.
Medical, yes.
So currently, like I went to the fasting act course 20%, currently going to 20-19%. And Jeremy Howard was quite passionate about how deep learning will affect medical.
Yes.
And he, showed some research wherein they are trying to learning medical images, cancer images,
Yes.
cancer images. So I think that will be the area like speaking on those aspects.
Yes, I agree. So I'm in the same boat. For me personally, medicine is the most exciting. I also think that this is one of India's competitive advantages when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to medical data, because of the amount of data here. Right? This is something that India can be better than the rest of the world at because there are more people here. Right? So when it comes to medicine, there's so much potential in genetics. Right? So who's heard of 23andMe? It's a company that 23andMe is a company in the US it's starting to get popular, but the idea is that you'll buy this kit and they'll send it to you to your home and you'll spit in it. You'll spit in this kit and you send it back. And then they have your whole genetic sequence, that all the things that make you who you are. And they'll be able to tell you things like, using machine learning, it's going to learn the mapping between genetics and traits because they have so many people, right? They'll be able to tell you what foods are best for your genes. They'll be able to tell you what's an ideal exercise plan, or things that you are, unnecessarily afraid of, like spiders. This is in genetics. Arachnophobia, because our ancestors had, were afraid. So evolutionarily speaking, it makes sense for us to be. So genetics, right? No one has tried this. Well, there's one startup. I was kind of researching this in India that's done it, but it could be done much better. So that's one use case. Yes. Yeah. Legal system.
Yeah, because the cases are so delayed, necessarily there is so much of paperwork.
Yes. Yes. Too much paperwork. Yes.
At
Yes, exactly. Yeah, anything legal is just a headache. So, I mean, for me, when it comes to filling out paperwork is a headache. So I totally agree. We've got to make that faster. Yeah. Gaming. Yeah. What would be one use case in gaming? And how NPCs interact? Right. Yeah, in games you'll just approach the NPC and they'll just like stand there and say some canned response that they hard-coded before, rule-based. But if it could adapt to, it could know like where you were before, it could try to predict where you're going to go next and suggest things to you. Absolutely. That is a great one. Let's do one more. One more use case, yes.
Chatbots.
Yes, chatbots. Yeah, so chatbots. In 2018, I was pretty excited about, I was thinking like chatbots were going to be more popular. But it turns out that it's still a hard problem. It is still a hard problem. Chatbots are quite difficult. I don't know if you saw the Google I/O. They had this chatbot demo where it's a barber shop. You know that. Yeah, and you know the one part that sticks out in my mind is when it said, like it's a human or something. It's thinking. I was like, where in the data was that? Where did it learn that? So honestly, I'm almost a bit skeptical that was real. Like that.
They did it intentionally, like it was done intentionally. That breaks were done. Like if you look at Google AI blogs, it was done intentionally.
Oh, they said that in the blog?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, I didn't read that. They did intentionally. Okay, that makes sense then. Okay, so because none of their research after that showed anything about chatbots. Everything was related to language translation and scalability, like Kubernetes and Kubeflow, all this stuff. DevOps. So yeah, that's very cool. So yeah, chatbots.
Also in hospitality and hotel industry.
Oh, for sure, yes. Yes, waiting for customer service on the phone, very inefficient process. Exactly. Yeah, let's keep going, yeah.
I recently saw this implementation on GitHub. So Jeremy Howard had published, I think one of the projects was ULM Fit. They made a paper on that. And I think one of the students of Faster that AI, he implemented it to make a Hindi to Vec. It's like a Hindi version of Word to Vec.
That's amazing.
That would be something that would be really using it in different languages.
Yes. 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 This is the kind of thinking that needs to exist. What can you guys do that's unique? Something that is unique to India. What can you do? You can leverage the amount of data here, that other people don't have access to, right? In the U.S., we have so many regulation. I mean, in terms of different fields. But for example, like I was saying, 23andMe, they can't do anything here because the FDA doesn't allow that. You have to go through approval. That takes years to do. So try to look for things that are only possible here. Another one would be finance. That's a huge one. Financial data. Yes. Education. Yes, of course. What would be something in education?
Like if a student, there are different types of student learning ability is different that AI can differentiate into that student. This student is fast learning, then he should go for further topics.
Yes.
The other is not fast learning, so you can go again with the same topics.
That's a great one. Yes, education. Absolutely. I really like this one. Yes.
Automobile predictive maintenance in machines. Predictive
Maintenance in machines. Oh yeah. Like in a factory.
Yeah, in wind turbines, predicting breakdowns.
Breakdowns. Yes, absolutely. Because these can be hundreds of thousands of dollars or euros or rupees worth of. Yeah.
I think self-driving cars will be mentioned that.
Of course. Okay, let's take a second to talk about self-driving cars, and then we'll keep talking about this. So I took a tuk-tuk here. So it was like 50 minutes. There has to be a way. How would this work here? Do you guys think this is possible, like on these roads? No, right?
Not yet.
Not yet. So there's some infrastructure, like stoplights and then self-driving cars, right? Yeah. Automobile.
Actually, we can, based on the driving pattern of the driver, the insurance company can increase their premium or decrease their premium also. And when the driver is like, don't breaks.
So it helps the driver avoid accidents by detecting nearby vehicles and pedestrians. Yeah, so like a camera. So not self-driving, but just like.
Based on the historical data of the driver, the dash acceleration count per second or the heart braking count.
He's talking about insurance company benefiting from AI.
Oh yes, insurance, absolutely, absolutely. Predicting how drivers are going to drive and then scoring them, giving them a credit score. I see, credit scoring. Yeah, that's a huge one as well. Yeah, that's a huge opportunity, I think. Yeah.
I think we can use AI for, especially in India, because we have so much traffic, is to optimize the signal as a grid and use RL to like calculate each combination so that traffic as a whole flows smoothly.
Yes, another huge opportunity. There's so much value there. Absolutely. That would change, hundreds of thousands of lives. Yes.
Computer vision, analytics, data analytics, and all those things.
Yes.
Knowing how many people walk, all tracking and everything. For a shop, you don't have analytics, right? So it has enough for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Aviation industries.
Aviation. I didn't think about that one. Aviation. What would be one in aviation?
Ticket cancellation prediction. So currently I'm working on a project and we found that inside that these major domestic airlines are using so much money that their seats are going vacant. So we are currently working on a project. So we are employing deep learning.
Nice. That's perfect. Yeah. Ticketing systems, increasing revenue, reducing turnover like that. Yeah. There needs to be more of that. All the way in the back. Cybersecurity, yes. I still haven't done a video on that. I need to. I guess what would be one thing in cybersecurity? I'm sure there's so much.
There are various attacks on the government websites which keep on happening and are not public enough. But based on the study data of the analysis of those attacks, we can identify which particular websites are vulnerable and take preventive actions.
Yeah. That's a great one, yeah. If we think about what an attack looks like, there's some set of values there, right? Like where this person is, the location, who this person is if we know, what their pattern of, go ahead? IP address, what their pattern of clicks were, right? And if we know what an attacker looks like from before, there's our features. There's our data point, there's our anomaly. But then we know what a bunch of good users look like as well, right, in a spreadsheet. And so when we train a model on that, it'll learn what an attacker looks like, and then it can predict what a bad attacker would be. That's a great use case.
Just for example, we have SQL injections and accesses, right? So we could classify if the user's data is a malicious script or it's a normal name or email addresses.
Yep.
Using classification, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Oh yes, that would be great. That would be great. What would be one use case of a disaster? What would be one disaster, that type of disaster?
Say for example flooding.
Yeah.
So you can like predict and again manage.
Yes.
There are solutions, supply solutions. You have alternate solutions.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And again to manage the task force also.
Mhm.
So that also
Yeah, and that seems like something that could be very scalable as well. And I feel like India could do that well. That could be something that is uniquely here, and then the rest of the world could learn how to do that. Let me do one more, and then that's it for this line of questions. Let's see. Yes?
To detect fake news, so you can use technical analysis to detect fake news.
Yes. Yes, fake news, absolutely, absolutely. Fake news, yeah. What even is fake news anymore? What is real? What is, It's crazy what's happening. When I first started the YouTube channel, I was dreaming and hoping that, eventually one of these big news outlets would cover my channel, the work I was doing, New York Times and BBC and all of these. But now I feel like that's almost like, that's not as important anymore. Like, we don't need any of that. We have our own distribution channel. We have our own community. That's like the difference between the big news outlets and individual people, the power that we have as individuals, it's slowly becoming smaller and smaller, So we don't need to find we don't need anything. Like you can be more independent now than ever before. One person can make a successful business using just their laptop and access to the internet, no matter where you are in the world. It's an amazing time to be alive. So, okay. So that's it in terms of ideating over different possibilities for data science. Let me do 5 minutes of open-ended Q&A about data science, machine learning questions, technical questions, any questions you have. So let's start with somebody. Yes? Yeah, it's a great question. Yes. Yeah. So more than anything, I found Twitter, the social media platform, to be the best. And I have very carefully selected researchers that I follow on Twitter that I find to be useful. So I would say to you to just go to my Twitter profile, see who I'm following. I'm following maybe 300 people. And just find ones that you also find interesting and just follow them. Because what I do pretty much every day is I'll just take one scroll through Twitter and I'll see like new paper, this, and then you can see the researchers are talking about the ones because it shows which ones are exciting to them. And then that's when I know, this is something to look at. Recently, there was a paper that won the biggest AI conference of the year, NeurIPS, called NeurIPS. It was in Montreal, called Neural Ordinary Differential Equations. And that one was pretty cool. And so, 4,854 research papers were submitted from Facebook and NVIDIA, all these big tech companies, and this one was placed at, it won the best paper award. So that was an obvious signal, but there are others that are not as obvious that you can find on Twitter. There's also a bunch of Facebook groups that I follow as well. So if you go to Facebook and you go to the groups tab, okay, I have some other things to say about Facebook, but go to the groups tab and search AI or machine learning. You'll find a couple of really interesting groups, and then they're always posting really interesting content. But about Facebook in general, when I use Facebook, I have a Chrome extension that blocks the news feed. So it blocks the normal, the regular news feed. So I don't see anything there because the news feed is actually manipulating you and your behavior, for ads and all this stuff. So I just don't even go there. But the groups are interesting for sure. Also, on a related note, I have my phone in grayscale mode. So if pretty much Android, pretty much all phones have this that I know of. Android has this for sure. I can't talk about other ones, but you basically turn off the colors on your phone. And the reason to do this is because even all the apps we use, these UX, UI designers are spending their time and energy and brain power to try to figure out how to keep your eyes on the screen as long as possible. So even the colors, blue, purple, in this combination, nobody is immune to this because it's a very primal human thing. It's very, very primal. When we see a certain color, no matter who you are, it's going to trigger a certain action or feedback in you. And so that is manipulating you slowly. So if you turn off colors on your phone, then you'll waste less time just mindlessly looking through things, and it will be more of utility, something that's productive. I found this to be useful for me. This is something that I do. But I will admit that I sometimes turn it back on just because it's nice to go back into color mode to look at pictures or something. But then I'll turn it back off. So I'm very strict about that. Yeah.
Book on decentralized applications.
Yes.
And in India there is a ban on cryptos.
Yes.
So what do you think? You have written a book. Is it good or bad, or the blockchain technology or something?
That's a really good question. So I wrote that book when I was in India last time. I was traveling here for a few months from Himachal all the way to Kerala by train. And I was inspired mostly by, I thought there was a huge opportunity for this here in India. But you're right, but also 2 months ago, Facebook approved that cryptocurrency here in India for WhatsApp, but then that was banned even more recently. So how to get around that? Well, that's a great question. Well, first of all, the whole blockchain space in 2018, it's just been up and down. Right now, it's pretty down right now. I would look for alternative technologies. It's not necessarily the word blockchain, but distributed ledgers. So DLT, distributed ledger technology. There's a lot of potential there. So one specific tool you can use is called Cosmos Network. And so that's very similar to a blockchain, but it's not a blockchain. The whole point is it's unstoppable. It's unstoppable. You can't block it via an IP address because it's content addressed. So you can't just block it because you can replicate it endlessly. So I would say it's a different set of tools, but the idea is the same. Applications that are unstoppable, that both the creators, the developers earn wealth from creating, but also the users. And these are the apps of the future. I still very strongly believe these are the apps of the future. Of course, we're going to have some things like this happen where things are banned temporarily. But overall, the future is going in this direction. And if not for us, then for our children and their children, there will be apps where people are earning wealth from sharing data. Because as automation technology increases, there will be less jobs for people who are, say, truck drivers, and as self-driving cars come into the picture and things like this. Those jobs will be automated, but new jobs will be created. Things we wouldn't even think about, like this would be a job. It would just be unfathomable, like, oh, this is a job. For example, just taking photos. That could be a job because that's data. And in this economy, data is the new oil, right? Data is the most valuable thing in the world. So we're all going to wake up to how important it is. We're all going to get paid for this data. And then this will look something like a basic income. But there's value there. It's not just money for free. It's money for doing work. But the work is creating and sharing and generating data. That is something that no machine can ever automate. That is something that is very unique. Your conscious, unique experience of the world. Only you see the world the way that you do with your 5 senses, your eyes, your nose, your ears. So the way you turn that into something valuable is by sharing your perspective. And so we're going to monetize that. If not now, then eventually. It's inevitable. Yeah. Yeah, let me start with you.
So, Siraj, you wrote a book on decentralized apps.
Yeah.
And a lot of ICOs came in and they tried to do something. People were reinventing Reddit, reinventing Steam and whatnot.
Yeah.
So where do you see this going now?
Where do I see it going now?
Yeah, the apps.
So the next step would be, I didn't think it would happen like this, but I think what's going to happen are we're going to start seeing the biggest companies start implementing cryptocurrency-based solutions. So we already saw this at the end of 2018. So only 4 or 5 months ago, Amazon, it's retailer, released a blockchain-based AWS solution to build dApps on AWS. So that was first. And then Facebook had the WhatsApp cryptocurrency idea. That didn't work out. But someone's got to do it at a huge scale for the rest of us to just believe. So I think that's how it's going to play out. It's going to be one of the bigger players. And then we're going to see a huge wave of innovation in this space. Yeah.
So the jobs of the future, can we say that the human jobs will move towards creativity while the machine jobs will take over the technical?
Yes. Anything that is just not fun or not enjoyable, that will be done by machines.
And anything that is creative will be taken over by machine.
Yes.
That requires intuition, that requires...
Exactly. Deep thinking, intuition. And so one of the books I read of the 10 was called AI Superpowers, China, Silicon Valley. Did someone say something about that? Yeah, you guys, raise your hand if you read that book. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a great book. I highly recommend it. Changed my whole mentality about where China is. They are going fast. Like they are really investing quite a lot. Like grandmas and grandpas, older people are at bars and they're getting served by robots, and they think it's okay. It's a totally different culture. Whereas in the U.S., it's not like that. So it's not just the young people. It's everybody. So that's super exciting. So yeah, it'll be enjoy. So my point of bringing that up was Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, the guy who wrote the book. He was former head of Google China. He said that, and this is a guy who's worked in AI for 30 plus years. He was working at Apple and all these companies. He says that there is something about humans that maybe cannot be automated. And it's good to believe that until it is automated, because that's how we should be. Because if we don't believe that, then it's going to limit our creation. Exactly. So, so maybe there is something about us that can't be automated. And if everything can be automated, including the creative, loving aspects of us, then we would just merge with these machines using what's called, this is kind of 20, 30 years, but a brain-computer interface. So,
What's your D1 singularity?
idea of singularity? So here's what the singularity actually looks like. So I live in Los Angeles, and there's a startup in Los Angeles called Kernel. And so who here has heard of Neurallink? Neuralink is a startup. So Elon Musk is a guy who started Tesla, a bunch of big companies, SpaceX. He's a business tycoon in the US. And one of his companies is called Neuralink. And he invested $10 million US into this company to create a device. And we don't know what this device looks like, but the whole idea is that this device is going to replace our phones. It's not going to be a phone, but we'll either, who knows, maybe we'll stick it on our head like this, it doesn't go inside. Maybe we'll inject it into our bloodstream and it goes inside, and then somehow it does that. That would be scary. Ideally, it doesn't go inside of us. It's non-invasive, I would hope. But the idea is that then you can just, you're connected, you yourself are connected to the internet. So you don't need a phone anymore. So if you want to call somebody, you just call somebody with your mind. You're like, hold on. Hey, how's it going? Oh, yeah, okay. You want to see the Facebook news feed, you can just see it right here, just like I would see you or me. It's just there, or whatever it is. If you want to learn something, you instantly download a language, all of Mandarin or whatever, into your head. It sounds very futuristic, but there are real companies working on this. My point of mentioning Kernel in LA is that this is Brian Johnson, the guy who started the company. Elon approached him, and he's like, hey, I want to start this company. It's called Neuralink. And Brian said no to Elon, which is super cool to say no to Elon, right? Because he said that Elon burns bridges with everybody that he works with that are longer than 5 years, and he's in this for the long run. So Brian invested $100 million, so 10x what Elon invested. So the reason I mentioned that is singularity. In LA, that there's a scene of neuroscientists, 50, 60 of them that are working at Kernel that I've had the chance to talk to and learn from, and they are serious about this. They are very serious about this. Some of the best neuroscientists in the world are working on this right now. So what do I think the singularity is going to look like? Their plan is to release something in 5 years. I mean, also Facebook is working on this as well. So some kind of device, non-invasive, that you wear somewhere on your body that connects you to the internet in some way. And you won't need a phone. That's what the singularity will look like. So all of this machine learning technology, sentiment analysis, that eventually will just become a part of our own thoughts. So whatever thought we have, we'll just leverage what that is, and then we'll be able to think 1,000x or 10,000x. It's almost, we can't even grasp it. It's slightly scary, I can understand, but to me it's like pretty much 100% exciting. We have to be careful though.
AI getting more intelligent, like as you speak on some TWN, you spoke about
Yeah.
that thing. So like it is getting more intelligent than at a point from the humans. So and it is controlling us, something like that. Will that happen?
Yeah, so in terms of control, like that's already happening. Like we've never created an entity as big as Facebook is, for example. Facebook is controlling more people than any government has ever been able to control in terms of the news feed alone. So it's almost like as a species we're creating ever more powerful single entities. So where does this lead us? We definitely have to implement some cybersecurity ASAP and prevent that kind of mass scale control, especially with a device like this, because you can control your thoughts literally. So this is something we need to be thinking about. We already have a head start. We have a 5-year head start here. So we can definitely prevent something like, brain control from happening. Let me do one more question. Yeah?
Do you see any other governments like China adopting behavior profiling like a social score system in order to do better policy making? Do you see that happening? Any other government in the world?
Yeah.
And what's your take on it? Like, do you feel it is ethical, non-ethical, or there's some good points?
So I don't know if there are other governments doing it. My guess would probably be Estonia, because they have this e-government system, e-passport. They're very digitally inclined. in terms of how I feel about it ethically, so growing up in the West and having those sets of values, I thought it was unethical. But then after reading the book AI Superpowers, it's not necessarily unethical. It's just different. It's just it's a different culture. You know, Confucianism. That whole system of social credit scoring was a government-created problem, because in China, you know, these social institutions are banned by the government. Any kind of social institution that is outside of the scope of the government is banned. So people can't trust each other if they can't connect to each other, right? If there are no social institutions, it's harder to trust people. So it's a government-created solution to a government-created problem. So if you ask people in China, so I've been watching all these vlogs and, you know, on the ground, people are asking, what do you think about this social credit score? Everyone's like, young people, old people, all people are like, I mean, it's okay, I'm not doing anything bad. They don't find a problem with it, and they're living in it. So we might find a problem with it, but they don't. And what it's allowed them to do is trust each other. They can know, oh, this guy's not going to rip me off. This guy's not going to do this. So I can have this loan. I can take this ride. I can do these things. So it's actually helping them move faster as a society technologically. I do think, I mean, there is potential for that to be abused for sure. And it's inevitable that it is being abused in some way. It's inevitable. So nowhere is perfect, right? Nowhere is perfect. So that's it for this talk. I'll be here. I'll be here all day. And yeah, we can chat just one-on-one in a group, whatever. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you.